Hi everybody, Dave Winder here on GoRacers.com, and I've got to tell you, I've done a lot of special events at Murray State over the years, but this one tonight ranks right up there among the best that you're ever going to see at Murray State. This is the 2013 Racer HoopaLooza. This is the night that the Racers have their annual fundraiser banquet and golf scramble, which is tomorrow. And I stand with you here tonight in the CFSB Center, the home of the Racers, all the banners around us here, as many former Racers and coaches are back tonight. We've got somewhere around 300 people here tonight, including the guests, supporters of Racer basketball who have attended this event tonight. And just want to go through some snapshots that we've taken here today. Video. We had a press conference before it started here this evening. Some of the all-time greats have been here. You see some of those snapshots. And among the greats that are here tonight, all-time leading rebounder, Popeye Jones, all-time leading scorer, Jeff Martin, and head coach Mark Gottfried, who coached the Racers from 95 to 98. He's our honored guest here tonight, and we'll have others as we go on in future years of Racer HoopaLooza. But this has really been an outstanding day already. And what we're going to do here tonight is to bring you the entire banquet as we honor Coach Gottfried here tonight, who is now the head coach at North Carolina State, about to enter his third season with the Wolfpack. He's done a fabulous job there. He did a fabulous job at Murray State. And also here on GoRacers.com and on our YouTube channel, be looking for the intro video that we did for Coach Gottfried here tonight, and then the history highlight film that will also be shown here tonight. You'll see it on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's go to the podium and get started tonight in 2013 Racer HoopaLooza.
First, to help us recognize and introduce Coach Gottfried is our current head basketball coach, Steve Prohm. In just 2 short seasons, Coach Prohm has won 52 games while losing only 12. Won the OVC regular season and the OVC tournament, competed in the NCAA tournament and defeated Colorado State before losing to Marquette, and helped continue the Racers' record for consecutive winning seasons. But possibly most importantly, he found a wife here in Murray who is from Murray, and that gives us hope that he'll be around here for a while. No pressure, Katie. Ladies and gentlemen, our Racer head basketball coach, Steve Prohm.
I've known Coach Gottfried in some form or fashion for probably the last 15 years. If you guys know our history, we're both graduates from the University of Alabama. It's fall of 97, I finished my degree, and I start my master's program the spring of 98. Dave Hobbs resigns from the University of Alabama. Coach Gottfried has the 29-3 team, has an amazing year, and ends up being the head coach at his alma mater at Alabama. It's my first time. I've never been to the Final Four. I got my degree. Now I got to find a job to get into coaching. I called my parents. I was going to drive to San Antonio to the Final Four, but his press conference is like that Wednesday or Thursday. So there's no way that I can drive and be at the press conference. I'll never make it down to the Final Four. So I called my parents and say, can you get me a flight? I'll fly from Birmingham to San Antonio. So they tell me they'll do it. So all right. So now I go to the press conference, and I'm sitting in the back, and I go to the press conference, and I'm in awe. I'm like, man, we're going to win the national championship. I said, man, listen to this guy talk, man. I am so excited. I'm so fired up, and I am ready. I'm like, I got to figure a way to, I want to work. I'm going to work here. I'm going to figure out a way to get a job here. So because I'd already been there currently as a student assistant, a student manager, now he's going to meet with the team. So I go in there, and now I'm listening to him talk to the team. And he's talking about we want to be on top of the box. We want to be on top of the box. We're going to be on top of the box. And then he starts talking about 5 words. If anybody ever asks you how are you doing, you tell them, and I don't know if these are all exact, but you're great, you're awesome, you're terrific, you're super, you're blessed. You tell them that. If anybody asks you, don't tell them nothing different if they ask you how you're doing. So I'm like, man, I've got to figure out a way to stay here. I'm gonna work here. So I worked all summer trying to help with team camp, running around. Darren Boatwright's up here in Murray. He's trying to get down there because he's trying to get the same job I'm trying to get. So we get all the way through the summer, And I'm still helping out. But now I've been offered a job by Coach Kennedy. I'm going to go to Centenary College. And he says, hey, you come to Centenary College, you be my volunteer assistant, basically third assistant, though, so I can be on the floor coaching. But everybody knows the story, no money, live in the dorm, the whole thing. So I go to Coach Gottfried, and I'm thinking he's going to say, no, don't do that. Don't do that, man. Be a GA for me. That was the plan. So I go in there, and Coach is like, man, that's an awesome opportunity for you. And I'm thinking, I'm used to eating Ruth's Chris at the SEC tournament. You're playing Kentucky. I said, I never even heard of Centenary, and this guy wants me to go to Centenary? I said, I must have done a terrible job these last couple months. But he explained the positives of why to go. Get an opportunity to get on the floor and coach. Get with a good man in Billy Kennedy. And I don't know if Coach remembers that conversation, but he left me with 3 things. He told me 3 things. And when I was in that office that day before I left for Centenary, and I told him I appreciate the opportunity to work for him for the little bit that I did. He said, learn everything that you can as an assistant coach. Try to be involved in every aspect of the program because you never know what role, responsibility, what level, or what position you will hold at some time, at some point in your career. And the second thing he told me is when you've run out of things to do and you're in that office, you're just kind of screwing around on the phone, find something to do. Come to the head coach, give him some ideas, bring some ideas or bring some things, to spark some interest or get him thinking about some other opportunities or things you can do. And the third thing, and this is what I've tried to pattern myself, I worked for the same man for 12 out of my 13 years as an assistant, Billy Kennedy. And I wouldn't be the head coach here if it wasn't for him and for you former guys that played under us. But Coach Gottfried said, the last thing he said, make yourself invaluable to the person that you work for. And I tried. That's the one thing I took out of that conversation when I left that day from Tuscaloosa. Me and my dad got into U-Haul, and we headed down to Shreveport, Louisiana. Make yourself invaluable to the person you work for. And for my 13 years as an assistant coach, I tried to do that. And I think that's a big reason of why I'm here today. I appreciate those words, and I truly appreciate the one thing I want you to know. We were up there at the NBA Combine, and he was watching these guys from NC State, and I was watching Isaiah. And I forgot to mention to him about the Final Four. And I said, Coach, I really want to do this. I want to get the former players back. I want to start a reunion that we do every year. I want you to be the first guy to come back. Without hesitation, I'd love to be there. Just let me know when. I shot him a date. The first date didn't work. Shot him the second date. I'll be there. Done deal. So I really appreciate you being here tonight, and I appreciate what you've done for Murray State. During your 3 years here and over 15 years ago. So thank you so much. And to you former players, again, this isn't just a one-time thing. Next year, it'll probably be a weekend earlier, but I want all you back. Thank you so much and enjoy the night.
There's not a day that goes by in Murray, Kentucky, I promise you, where somewhere, someplace, somebody's talking about one of those great plays, one of those great games. So thank you very much for coming, taking times out of your schedule, players, to get back. We really appreciate you. Now, Coach Gottfried. Some coaches have a very intense personality. Coach Luther was a very intense coach, very intense. I remember. Coach Egger, Coach Cronin was pretty intense. Then you had Ron Green. It was more businesslike. You had Tavester Anderson and Steve Newton, who were just kind of pretty laid back. If you remember Coach Newton, he always had that program. That's as exciting as he was getting. And then you got Mark Gottfried. And all I can say about Mark Gottfried was that he was cool. He was the cool coach. He had a purple Cadillac. That was the first thing he got when he got here, was a purple Cadillac, wasn't it? You remember that purple Cadillac? A long one, too, not one of those little ones. It was a long one. Had him a trench coat hung down around the ankles. Now, Coach Prome's trying to give you just a little bit of run for your money on that coolness, but I think you still got one up on him. But not only was he cool, but his teams played cool, and he made Racer basketball cool. It was the cool thing to do. He was confident, borderline cocky, But that's okay, DT, right? It's all right to be cocky, isn't it? But he was confident. He expected to win, and he did. He won 3 OVC championships, took us to the NCAA tournament twice. Should have been 3. And believe me or not, Mark, he still calls games in here, and I remind him every time he gets over there in that corner. I'll let him know it. And the 96-97 team that beat Austin Peay in overtime, a lot of people think that probably was the greatest game ever played in an OVC tournament. His 97-98 team finished number 25 in the nation, top 25. If the internet and social media had been around in 1997-98, it would have been higher. Totally convinced of that. You know, I get asked all the time, which is the best team ever? Well, every one of you coaches has coached a team that you might consider the best team ever. And a lot of you players have played on teams. We probably got 10 or 15 teams that you could say is the best ever, and that's what's great about Murray State. But there's one thing that can be argued. The 96-97 intramural team of Isaac Spencer, Aubrey Reese, Ray Cunningham, Rod Murray, Kajana Hired, and Darren Boatwright, without a question, was the best intramural team in the history of Racer basketball. In fact, it might have been the best intramural team anywhere in the nation. Off the court, man, this guy had ideas. He was working them. I mean, he had a million of them. Because believe me and him talk late nights, 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, because Mark would have an idea. He was always full of ideas. And he was able actually to pull off some of those ideas. He held the first coaches clinic where he had Hugh Durham, Dale Brown, Jim Herrick, Mike Bray, and himself, which is very enjoyable. He had the first fan jam. I think he had it on a morning before a football game. Racer Arena was packed. He had a 3-point shooting contest, and guess who won? Mark Gottfried won. He had a Thanksgiving tournament. He come to me and he said, you know, I want to have a tournament here in Murray, Lindy. I said, well, what's it going to cost, Coach? He said, $50,000. We're going to have to raise $50,000. And I said, jeez, we can't raise $50,000 to have a Thanksgiving tournament here in Murray. Well, sure enough, he pulled it off and got it done. And then there was the dinner. You remember the dinner, Mark? John Wooden's coming. We're going to tip off the basketball season, and we got John Wooden coming. And, man, I'm fired up. So we're going to sell it for $50 a ticket. I said, well, John Wooden, I think it'll bring $50. I think we'll be able to sell it. So we was on radio, we was on TV, and we were promoting the heck of it. 3 days before the event, he calls me, he said, Lindy, bad news. I said, what, Mark? He said, Coach Wooden's not doing good. His health's not doing good. He's not going to be able to make the trip. I'm going, oh, my gosh. We've done sold all these tickets, $50 a pop. Everybody's expecting John Wooden. He's not going to be there when they show up. He says, I got Gene Cady coming. I said, well, that's pretty good, but he coached at Western's, what I'm thinking in the back of my mind. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play. But it was somebody. Day of the event, Coach Gottfried calls me and said, Lindy, bad news. I said, Coach Cady ain't going to be able to make it. The weather's bad. They won't clear his flight in, so he ain't going to make it. I said, well, what in the heck are we going to do, Coach? And he said, I'll speak. So everybody showed up expecting John Wooden, and they got Mark Gottfried. And he knocked it out of the park that night, too. He really did. He did a great job that night. In fact, he loved speaking. He loved speaking. He'd be everywhere promoting the Racers speaking. I went with him several times, and he would always do a great job. In fact, I got to thinking, I think he loves speaking more than he does coaching. Man, that guy loves to promote. He really does. But what I want to say, you know, it's hard to believe that you did all of this in 3 short years. In 3 years, all this stuff took place. And, Coach, I want to thank you for the energy, the passion that you put into this program for 3 years, because you did a job like you were going to be here forever. It wasn't one of those deals where I'm going to come in here and I'm going to win and I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge. You cared about a program. And so does this guy right here. He cares about our program. I want to say thanks for what I think, for myself personally and others, was 3 of the most enjoyable years in the history of Racer basketball. I wish you the best of luck at North Carolina State, and maybe someday soon, the Racers and the Wolfpack will play for the national championship. Now, how cool would that be? Thank you.
You have head coach's syndrome. You can't, ain't able to look up numbers, can't drive, but knowledgeable on everything. Head coaches are knowledgeable on everything. They know everything. I can remember him talking about his former boss, Jim Herrick. Oh, God, he thought he was the smartest man in the world. He should have been on Jeopardy. He thought he knew everything. And we're sitting around the table looking at each other saying, if he only knew what we thought about him. He knows everything. Well, this one particular speaking engagement, we were no longer employed here. We'd already moved on. But there were 2 very special guests. It was a revival. It was Franklin Graham. Crusade was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And they were having 2 special guests, and it was 2 young girls, as you all will remember the tragedy of Columbine High School, the shooting there. And they were bringing these 2 young girls in to speak to the 15,000 people there that night. I can remember we're downstairs prior to the beginning of the service that night, and there's these 2 state troopers, and they're standing there, and it's me and Coach and these 2 state troopers and a couple people from Tuscaloosa, and the panic the last hour had been, are they going to make it? Their plane was delayed. Are they going to make it? So they were flying into Birmingham. They were going to be brought down. These 2 girls from Columbine High School were going to be brought down by the state police. So these state police are there, and someone who knew the story came up and said, well, glad to see you guys make it, and just made it in the nick of time, and had to speed a little bit coming down there. And this state trooper, he says, yeah. He said, I hit 115 miles an hour one time, and the governor cut the car off. And kept telling the story, and man, I was thinking, golly, that's fast. And you can tell this look comes on Mark's face. And he says again, boom, we're flying down 5920, and that's the interstate between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, and flying down through there, and 115 miles an hour again, governor cut the car off again. Stone face as a judge, Mark says, he can do that? And one of our close friends there in Tuscaloosa, probably someone like any of you real close to the program, he's trying to correct Coach before he said it again. Everybody heard it. It was obvious everybody heard it. And he just said, Coach, it's a car park. It's a car park. So, a couple of good ones. And both are 100% true. I did not embellish either of those stories at all. I worked with Mark for 10 years. 10 years that we did a lot of winning. A lot. A lot here, a lot at Alabama. My first exposure, as I said earlier, to college athletics was with him. Because of him, I have an undergraduate degree and a master's degree that cost me $450. And that continues to affect me. If I had never crossed paths with him, I would be a very happy high school basketball coach in Western Kentucky. That'd be fine. But he allowed me an opportunity to change my experience. Change everything I ever thought I would do. Everything I ever thought I might do. And take me on a path of success and a path of showing me how to win. And that can't be replaced. So through the funny stuff, through the jokes, through the babysitting, through the times, and we've had good times and bad, you changed my life. That's what you mean to me. And I'll never forget it. Thank you.
When I was recruited at Murray State, I was being recruited as a scorer. They was telling me I was going to come here and replace the great Marcus Brown. Well, when I got on campus, all the assistant coaches was telling me that, DT, the only way you're going to play is you have to be the team defensive stopper. The problem was I never played defense in my life. But I tried. I really tried. One day in the middle of practice, we're having a drill. Coach Gottfried comes to me and just walks right beside me. And he tells me in my ear, DT, don't get me wrong. I want you to play defense, but I brought you here to score. The excitement that I got from those words were priceless. Coach, you have given me so much. I'm sure you've given it to others. But you taught me, you gave me the confidence when I needed it. From all those talks, you taught me how to be a leader, a man, and a father. And I want to end by saying that we at Murray State, we know for the last 15 years that your heart bleeds red, whether crimson red or Wolfpack red. But in the middle of all of that red lies racer blue. Welcome back.
You look around the country and you see programs that want to be like us here. They're trying to figure it out. Well, how come Murray State always wins? Why is that? Why is there so many banners up there? Why do they? It never seems to dip. And Steve said it best, and this is true, because I left here and went 11 years to Alabama. It's a great place, and the SEC was a great challenge for me, and we did a lot of great things. But it's a place here where, Steve said it too, it's true, the people behind the program that are always trying to find a way to help the program, that want to see the program do well, the players and the tradition and players start to sell to other players why it's great to come to Murray State. And all of those things contribute into why this becomes what it is. You look at all those banners behind me. So for me, how about my opportunity to come here as a first job? And, it was an opportunity that probably changed my coaching career. I'm 49 years old. I was 30 years old when I took the job here. And scared to death, like I said, because I wanted to uphold that. I wanted to do that and better and more and take a team to the NCAA tournament and win games. And Tavester and I used to always say it. We're trying to build a national championship team at Murray State. And people sometimes would actually kind of look at us like, really? Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Because if you can get in the tournament, Butler's proven it. VCU proved it. Steve has done an unbelievable job. Billy, I can go through all the coaches, Cal, Ron, Steve Newton, Scott. Once you're in, anything can happen. It's the greatest show on earth. And we believed it. That's what we were doing every day. We're trying to recruit players here to this place that can help us do that can win at that level. One other story I'm going to share with you. It's a true story. I'm going to tell on a little bit on Murray State. This is a good thing, though. But when people ask me sometimes, why do you always win? And I can remember here when we were recruiting Isaac Spencer and Rod Murray and Aubrey Reese, and we ended up with 4 guys back then. They called it a Prop 48 that could come to school, but they couldn't play that first year. And those guys were good students, not great students. They weren't, 4.0 guys, but they were interested in doing their schoolwork, and they were okay. But I remember going over to admissions at the time, and I had put together this big packet of all these great things, letters of recommendations, and all these things about how Isaac and Rod can do the work in school. And I remember I had all my speech ready to sell it. Here we got to let these guys in school. And really the answer was, prior to me laying all that out there, the question was, how good are they? And my answer was, damn good. We need to get them. He said, all right, they're in. All right, we're good. I took my folder and went back to my office. But there's a commitment to winning here. It's special. It's special. You guys got it. And don't take it for granted. There's a lot of programs around the country. They would die to have this right here. They would die for it, and they don't have it. They can't figure it out. And when we would bring young guys in, and even then walking around Racer Arena, we didn't have this building, and we didn't have the practice facility. So you better get some dudes now, Steve, with all this stuff. But what we could sell, and what T could sell, and all of us coaches, and Mick and Billy and everybody, is the experience that you get at Murray State. That's the difference here that you can get anywhere. You can't get some other places. You might even go to a school that's a little bigger and maybe play in a more high-profile conference, but you can't get that experience that you're going to get here. This one's a little different at Murray State. Little different experience here than everywhere else. And we can sell that. And Steve can sell it. He can sell it because when he walks out here to play, there's 8,000 in here and people that love their team. You guys take ownership in your team. This is your team. You love your team. And so for me to be a part of all that, be a part of all the great players that have been here, how about this? We all forget this. Last 7 games of Marcus Brown, my first year as a head coach, who, by the way, Marcus Brown was second in the nation in scoring that year by 2 percentage points to be the nation's leading scorer. Last 7 games, 7 in a row, had over 30 every night. 7 straight games to finish out his career. But you go through all the players and Popeye and Jeff and all the guys and DT, Mays, and I can tell you all of them. It's a joy to coach them. I got to tell you one story about DeTerry, too. Just remember this one. DeTerry Mays, first of all, he was right. Never played high school basketball. And so he goes to the Wallace State at Hanceville Junior College. Coach's name is Paul Brown. Paul's a good friend of mine. I didn't know DT at the time. So DT played his freshman year, did really good in his second year. A lot of people don't know. DT visited North Texas State. He committed to them. He visited Austin Peay, committed to them. He visited Georgia State, he committed to them. Georgia Southern, he committed to them. He just kept committing to everybody everywhere he went. So it gets right down to it, and he's committed to everybody. So I called Paul Brown. I said, Paul, I need a little help here. I got you, Coach. So signing day came, true story. DT walked into Coach's office. Paul Brown said, only 1 scholarship papers came in for you today. They're from Murray State. I got him. So then in the springtime, Marcus was leaving. I called up Paul, DT's coach. I said, Paul, will you be surprised if DT, can he give me 13, 14 points a game? He said, yeah, I'd be surprised. I said, oh, shit. He's got to score more than that. He said, Coach, he's going to get a lot more than 13 for you. Don't worry about that. First conference game, early December. We had to play a December conference game at Middle Tennessee. Went on the road at 28 that night. And Chad Towns, we were sitting over here talking about some of the guys. And it's great to have these guys here, Mike and Arnell and Justin and Michael Floyd and Marcus and all the guys I coached. But great place here. I love it. You guys got it going on and keep having it going on. When I'm, every night I'm a college basketball nut fan. I watch Murray State. I watch Steve's team all the time. Pull hard. You beat Vanderbilt in the NCAA tournament. It was an unbelievable feeling for me to be a part of that and know that, hey, man, I was a part of that place because it's unique. So thank you guys for having me back. It's been unbelievable. And statute of limitations has passed on Sylvester and I, so we're okay for all those jokes. It's a 5-year limit with the NCAA, so we're both good at this point in time. But again, thank you for having me back, and go Racers all the way. Thank you.
Not much at public speaking, believe it or not, or poetry, so I'm going to do both. We all have that special time, be it young or be it old, the moment we abandon other colors for the Racer blue and gold. For me, it was a Western game, a thunderous Racer arena crowd. When Cal Luther tossed his coat, I'd never heard anything so loud. The Racers beat the Toppers, led by Jimmy Young and his flowing mop. It continued a Murray State tradition of mostly coming out on top. Cutchin got it started. Later, Hodges took the bridle. Then Luther took the reins and won 3 more conference titles. Enthusiasm made the difference when Green's teams took the floor, and opponents knew to start the bus when they saw the 4 to score. Newton Shirts and Skins delivered 4 more titles to the gate and left Jim Valvano speechless when they upset NC State. Edgar brought a pace that drove opposing teams insane, and it brought us 3 more championships before he left us for Duquesne. Then Municipal haunted Gottfried after Shoulders blew his whistle, but 3 titles in 3 years certainly softened that night's bristle. Tevester won 2 titles and turned the other teams to chasers. He beat them, did his post-game show, and said, "Hey, go Racers." Huggins and Patino groomed our next coach, Michael Cronin, and mixed 2 tourney titles left Dave Luce and his bunch groaning. Kennedy was next in line and taught us defense would be handy to extend the stay to San Jose with a buzzer beater on Vandy. Now, Prohm had never coached before. Would there still be wins and fun? Oh, yes, a top 10 ranking, 23 straight, and eventually 31. But the players made it happen, from Jumpin' Joe to Garrett Bashir, Benny Purcell, Howie Crittenden, Johnny Reagan. It goes on for years. Sullins, Herndon, Jennings, Johnsons, Big Cat and Stu, McPherson, Taylor, Verdon, Young, Muff, and Namsu. Blondette, Streety, Hooker, Green, Sleets, Coleman, and Glass. Martin and Mann, Popeye and Frank. Is it any wonder we're kicking ass? Hood, Rainey, Spencer, Reese, Spoon, and Marcus Brown. Cunningham, Cuffey, Griffith, Daniel, and Holloway from downtown. Poole, Townsend, King, Jesse Williams, Shue, and Mew. You see, BJ and Miles at the buzzer and dancing with Dickie V. Singleton, Aska, Long, and Tony, Burdine, and Floyd Burdette. McLean to Miles to De Niro, Popeye's 37, and we're not done yet. The Coble shot, the Randall tipped, Cannon hit it from his knees, Mann and Welchel from midcourt. There are dozens more like these. But the time has come to toast these guys, so raise a glass to the air. These Racers run like thoroughbreds, so fire up the old gray mare.